Hi, friends. Welcome. I'm Sarah May, and welcome to mindfulness exercises and our live meditation. We'll give it a few minutes, wait until the hour, and allow everybody to join us here. But until then, feel free to say hello, type something in the comments, let us know where you're listening in from. Thank you all so much for being here. And happy Monday. I think, it's Monday morning for some of us, Monday afternoon, evening for some of us. But welcome to the start of a brand new week. And we have a really, what I think is a nice, simple meditation for you today called Just Sitting and Breathing. So, just sitting and breathing. So, hi, everyone. Hi, Sue from Virginia. And we've got Ram from Berkeley. Hello, Crystal, Mohammed, Jennifer, Amaya from Washington, D.C. I hope I'm saying your name right. Kelly from Florida. Hello, Akbar from Indonesia. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Tamiza from London. Kareem from Seattle, welcome. I'm Sarah May, and I am in southern Spain right now. So happy to be here where it's nice and warm and sunny. And I hope the weather is good where you guys are too. We've got Maryland, New Jersey, Florida, all over. So welcome. So we have, as I was saying, a simple 20-minute meditation today. The meditation is just sitting and breathing. And so we're just going to explore that, keep things simple. Meditation doesn't have to be complicated, of course, although we like to make everything a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And that's one thing that we're going to explore today. So hi Juan from Spain también. Hello. Amanda from Florida and Penny from California, Isabella from Poland. So great to see everybody on the call. So how about we start to begin? And as I said, 20-minute meditation, that's approximately how much time we'll spend. And then we'll stick around for some discussion, for some more answers to your questions. If you have a question at all about mindfulness or meditation in general, feel free to type it in the comments. But yeah, this meditation does not need much of an introduction. It's just sitting and breathing. So let's get started. So find a comfortable seat. And I think comfort really is key for this practice. And if you want to experiment with perhaps a little more relaxed posture than usual, feel free to do that. But do try to maintain somewhat of an upright, natural, neutral spine. So we can close the eyes if you'd like to. And just settle intentionally into your seat. So as we find a comfortable posture, we want to feel into stability, feel balanced, stable, and even through the hips. So now's the time to make adjustments, the adjustments that you need to. Finding comfort in the hips and your seat so that the thighs and the knees, the lower legs, the whole lower body can soften and relax. And then maybe a little awareness, attention to the spine. With stable, comfortable seat, we want to balance the top of the head right over the center of the pelvis. Find a little length in the spine, a little lift in the heart. Notice if the chin is jutting forward or if it's dropping to the chest. Can we come back to neutral? So the back of the neck is neutral and the head just feels weightless. Drop the shoulders a little more. And let the hands find a home in the lap. We might place one palm on top of the other. Touch the thumbs together. Or interlace the fingers if that helps prevent a little fidgeting. Relax the jaw. Eyes closed or gaze low. And we're just sitting. Just sitting. So what does it feel like to just allow for this moment of stillness in the body? Relative stillness in the body. Just sitting. And as we sit, we just breathe. Breathing in and out through the nose can help cue the autonomic nervous system to quiet down. Nostril breathing sends a signal to the body that says you are safe. There's nothing to do here, no reactivity needed. And so too can breathing evenly. We can cue the central nervous system to calm down by taking at least as much time to breathe out versus breathe in. And so as you further relax, you might find yourself breathing out even a little more longer. And we're just sitting and breathing. What does it feel like to allow for the body to simply breathe itself? To let go of a little bit of this effort in sitting and breathing. And just allow yourself to be fully engaged in simplicity. As we sit and breathe, we might observe a little bit and just notice if and when we feel this pull towards action. In what ways does distraction arise? And in what way do we feel drawn to respond? Is there any underlying discomfort with this relative stillness in the body? Perhaps some impatience present as we rest here, just breathing. And so the invitation is to just sit and breathe, but with just the smallest percentage of your effort, noting what that's like. What is it like to just sit and breathe? What else here is present? What else is arising? Whatever is present and whatever is arising, we can just take note and then let it go. Eventually, even letting go of this observation and resting further back into just sitting and breathing. Now, what would it feel like to even further minimize effort, not necessarily doing the work of meditating, but simply sitting and breathing? Not necessarily doing the work of avoiding or working against distraction or trying to be present, but just present through the action of sitting and breathing. Is it possible to do nothing other than sit and breathe? And what does that feel like? What's it like to just be present, sitting and breathing? Not doing the sitting, not doing the breathing, just fully immersed, completely engaged with this body that sits and breathes. And so if you find that the mind has gone anywhere other than right here, right now, sitting and breathing, we can come back to the posture. We can come back to the breath. And when you are ready, we can come back to the space around you, opening your eyes, taking a full deep breath in and out, perhaps, or taking a little bit of gentle movement into the space around you. And letting go of the meditation, but carrying still just some of that sense of non doing, of just letting yourself be, of just sitting and breathing. So, welcome everyone. We'll take a look at some questions and comments here. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to type them in the chat. Looking back at some of the older ones from during the meditation. Um, yeah, Jacob says it looks like she's trying not to smile. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, smiling or trying not to smile just makes me so happy to be here and to have all you guys on board listening in. So thank you for that. Yeah, neutral back of the neck as much as you can. So, be aware of chin jutting forward or chin dropping to the chest. You asked about the headphones. Yeah, I'm just using this by way of a little microphone here so you guys can hear me better. Um, let's see. Uh, yeah, and it's always we're always hold this balance of in meditation, trying to focus on the task. And of course, there's other things that arise within our field of awareness. And that's just part of what we work with and why we come to this practice again and again. Um, Sue says, uh, guided meditation seems a lot easier for me. But it seems important to keep practicing silent meditation too. Yes, yes, both. Um, yeah, guided meditation can be a wonderful way to get started with a practice. It can be a wonderful way to try out practices that are new to you. And it can just be like super relaxing, especially with a practice, such as we did today, just sitting and breathing. It can be nice to kind of like just listen to the guide and let go of a little bit of like effort in a way. Um, but that said, um, a guide can be a distraction in and of itself, right? So we do want to balance guided meditations with time spent just trying it on our own. And try to do our best not to compare the two, to work in our own personal silent practice with a sense of self-compassion and, as much as possible to note when we're judging or self-criticizing and just let that go. It's not about perfection. It's about just spending the time doing just what we did today, just spend some time sitting and breathing and see how that goes. And it's really valuable, I think, to note exactly what you noted, that guided meditation seems a little bit easier, that it seems to kind of guide our focus or attention perhaps, or to keep it a little more centered in one place. Um, when we're doing a silent practice on our own, we can really explore a little bit, or with both, is that true? Am I more focused during guided meditation, or, is the mind wandering there too? But maybe the presence of the guide or the voice of the guide kind of distracts me from noticing that so much, So these are all very valuable things to explore, whether you're in guided or silent meditation. And then suggestions for silent meditation, one very good one is just trying what we did today, just sitting and breathing. But it can be helpful to have at least something that serves as an anchor or an intention, right? So if you're going to do a silent practice totally on your own, using, for example, breath awareness as your anchor, as your intent. So with that breath awareness intention, when I veer from breath awareness, I have kind of a marker which can show me like, oh, we're no longer paying attention to the breath. And now I have something to go back to that signifies I've returned to the meditation and I've returned to focus. But yeah, practice with both. Um, Hi, everyone. Yeah, Carmel says, yeah, thank you for reminding me. Transcendental meditation is my go-to. Guided today is appreciated. Yeah. In that meditation, I don't practice that meditation. I don't know a lot about it, but it's similar um, uh, theory, right? But your anchor or your point of focus becomes a mantra, becomes sound, right? And so we repeat a sound, repeat a mantra to help keep the mind focused. And that can be really similar to a guide. It can be really similar to using, the breath or the body or an emotion or whatever it is that we're working with today as an anchor or a point of focus. Um, so yeah, thank you guys for chiming in. So today's meditation was just sitting and breathing, and it sounds so simple. Although, as many of you guys are mentioning in the comments, it's not necessarily easy to just sit and breathe. But why is it so important to just spend time doing something as simple as sitting and breathing and nothing else? Nothing else, at least as best we can. Well, I guess the first question is, when we're sitting and doing nothing, are we really doing nothing? We're always doing something. And that really is the truth. And I think Jacob or someone, pointed out that kind of paradox earlier is like, okay, just sitting and breathing is the directive. But when we really, really observe and explore, we notice we're always doing something. Um, and even that, a paradox in itself, we're sitting and breathing, but we're also at the same time devoting a little bit of the energy of the mind to observing our sitting and breathing and observing and noting whether or not we're still just sitting and breathing, right? Or have we followed a train of thought or started fidgeting or moved on to some other distraction? Um, so, yeah, as Michelle says, my mind tends to wander to tasks or conversations. Of course, the mind is always moving. The mind is always moving, and that's a very good thing. It's what keeps us safe and alive. This movement of the mind, um, but we are perhaps addicted to that movement. And so we chase the movement, we follow the movement, we become distracted by the movement. The movement pulls us away from the present moment. And so it's definitely to our benefit to practice as much or as often as possible, what is it like to be in relative stillness? And we practice that through the body, right? Some of you may have noticed that just sitting can be a really difficult practice, really challenging practice. We're so used to fidgeting, to moving physically, like, even, our couch potato selves, perhaps, we're used to movement. Like, we're used to holding the phone and scrolling through the phone. Some of us are used to holding a cigarette or a cup of coffee. We want to do things with our hands constantly. How many times during a meeting do you find yourselves tapping your fingers or tapping your toes or crossing and uncrossing your legs? So what is it like to just practice the physical stillness of just sitting? What is it like? Is there some discomfort that arises? Is there, um, feeling of awkwardness? How challenging is it? And what can we notice by just observing what goes on when we make the commitment to just be physically still in the body for just a set minute of time, you know? Um, Perhaps in the meditation, when the body was still, we kind of tune in a little bit to like this underlying urge or this underlying desire or this like pull towards movement, um when uh the face starts itching or the nose starts itching, like do we just react and scratch it, when the knee starts hurting a little bit, do we just fidget right away and move? But can we instead be present with that urge or that desire or that, discomfort that arises thanks to our addiction to movements, and just see what happens if we choose instead to just remain physically still a little bit longer. It's part of this exploration of just sitting and breathing, and then just breathing too, breathing is something that the body does automatically, thankfully, right? Breathing is something the body does automatically. And so, what does it feel like to breathe without doing the breathing? What does it feel like to breathe without being the breather? You know, is it possible to simply rest, breathing, and, release, let go a little more of this sense of self as the actor, right? So these are all things that we can explore with just sitting and breathing. And we can do it as an active exploration, like really contemplating a bit in our meditation. And I think that's a valuable exercise to go through. We spent a little bit of time on that today, asking some open ended questions like, what does it feel like to just be present with physical stillness? What might it feel like to just allow the body to breathe itself? For me to not be trying to do the act of breathing, Um, so we might verbally ask that in meditation. We can explore through felt sensation in the body. But in these sitting and breathing meditations, if we stay for long enough, if we practice for long enough, we can let go of even, eventually let go even of this kind of ongoing discourse that accompanies the meditation. And we can let go of kind of this sense of self that is observing or being the witness during the meditation. And perhaps this type of really simple practice can eventually just guide us into a state of rest where we where there's just sitting and breathing, and it's not we are sitting, we are breathing, right? There just is sitting and breathing, and I'm not even really observing that practice. I'm just immersed in that practice. There's the experience of that practice. So that's something that we can eventually get to with more consistent meditation practice. So, sitting and breathing. If you want to try this practice at home, it's really simple. Today we just spent a little bit of time focused on our posture and feeling into what it's like to be still in the body. And then we spent a little bit of time observing this breath, nostril breathing, even breathing in and out through the nose. And then just kind of asked ourselves this open ended question: what does it feel like to just sit and breathe and do nothing else? You know, is it possible to do nothing other than sit and breathe? And if it is possible, what's that like? So, really, that's the meditation. Super simple, but not easy. You know, it's in stillness that we notice the strength of this constant compulsion that we have to act, to move, to do, right? And this compulsion to move, this compulsion to act is so strong that typically during our daily life, we don't even realize that we're doing it, right? How many times, in how many ways, in our simple day to day interactions do we react to things? Do we just jump to action, jump to movement, without even noticing that we do it? So these practices of just sitting and breathing and not doing, the more that we do that on our cushion, the more we are likely to notice our compulsion to act off the cushion in our daily life. You know, um, Someone just said, thank you for reminding me to get grounded and be present in our body. And yeah, thank you. I mean, this really is what it's all about, right? How can we improve our mindfulness, expand and strengthen and deepen our mindfulness, notice more and more and more and more, so that in our daily lives, in our interactions with others, in the real world, so to speak, we can do less harm and we can show up with greater presence and we can um, be there for others in a more helpful, effective way, right? Um, yeah, Juan says just feeling your breath, nothing more. Yeah, I mean, it's such a simple practice, but can we? Can we just feel the breath and be present with the breath and breathe and do nothing more? You know, I'm thinking about like how many times in our daily lives, like we just speak and respond when we don't really need to speak or need to respond, or maybe we don't really have anything that like has to be said. We speak to just create noise, to fill space, right? How many times do we just like lift the hand and scratch the itch, without even really taking a moment to go, oh, you know what is that? How many times do we like smack the mosquito without taking a moment to go, wait a minute, oh, there's a mosquito on my arm. Maybe I could just gently blow him away, How often, do we just move and act and do out of just this compulsion? I keep using this word, this compulsion, like this being drawn into reactivity, and we don't even notice. A lot of us notice reactivity when we're talking about things like anger. We notice reactivity when we scream at someone we love. We realize that we've hurt them, and then we might feel sorry, right? Or we feel guilty, or we wish we could take it back, right? We notice reactivity in those big moments But do we notice reactivity in the really tiny moments, right? Those moments when we're just quick to judge, or those moments when, you know, quick to judge is probably the best one. Um, do we notice reactivity in those moments? So with mindfulness and by practicing, the opposite of what we're used to moving, doing, speaking, acting, you know, by practicing just being quiet, being still, doing less, we create a lot more space in which to, notice and observe our reactivity. And if we can catch that moment before we react, then we can prevent ourselves from doing a lot of harm. And, we can act more effectively and more efficiently in the world. Antonio says, is it hard to meditate in hot water or hot weather? Sorry, is it hard to meditate in hot weather? I was noticing the air conditioning. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's hard to meditate no matter where we are, right? There's always something, you know. Uh, I've got air conditioning going here in this room with me, and definitely it's making a little bit of noises, and I can hear that. Um, if I was outside though and it was really hot and I was sweating, that would be a distraction too. Um, so there's always something. The question is, do we allow that something to pull us away from the task at hand, right? If we think that we can set up, the ideal meditation space where we will be completely free from distraction, not too cold, not too hot, not too noisy, not too quiet, not too not too light, not too dark, no phone or whatever it is. Like, if we think we can somehow control the world around us, and or that we need to control the world around us before we can be okay, well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I think you'll find that it's impossible. But what we can do is, you know practice over and over and over again, being okay, being still, being quiet, feeling safe and stable and grounded, no matter what is going on around us, right? No matter how hot it is, no matter what noises are around, no matter what's calling our attention. Um, and that's really, really possible. And it's not that we won't notice these things, that we won't notice the world around us. Um, think about what that would be like if you did have the capacity to like 100% tune out the world around you. Well, that would be really unsafe, first of all. Um, we just don't want to, that's not the goal. But the goal is to be able to notice, like, oh, there's the noise of the air conditioner. And with practice, I can let it go even sooner, and I can come back to the task at hand even sooner, right? Because what do I normally do? Well, I normally would go, oh, there's the air conditioner. And then I start this cycle of like, oh, that stupid air conditioner, it's a little bit old, it's so loud, like I should get a new one, or so and so should come and fix it, or, you know, why is it always going off like when I'm trying to meditate, or why can't I pay better attention to my meditation and tune out the air conditioner? And it just goes like on and on and on, right? The judgment, the self-criticism, the frustration, or the resentments, or just the complaining about like whatever it is that's happening around, But what we can do is go, oh, there's the air conditioner. And then that's it. Just acknowledge it and then move on, come back to the intention, come back to the task at hand, right? Come back to the breath, right? And that can seem really, really challenging at first, but we just practice over and over and over and over again. And eventually the air conditioner becomes a thing that we like don't need to attach to, and we don't need neither do we need to avoid it, right? Um, it's no longer like responsible for all these thoughts and emotions and story. Um, we just let it go. We come back to the present moment. Um, Jacob said, "Yeah, it's all about applying this to all situations, and especially in the most extreme moments. Yeah, understanding our processing, our judgments. Can we extend the same understanding to our beliefs, our ideologies, right? When are we most triggered? Yeah, what are common behavioral responses? Are there others? How often do we reorganize the right amount of effort to our phenomenological experiences? Yeah. Yeah. So, it's just this process of like getting to know our minds a lot better. And when we start to kind of see how the mind works, we're better able to like go, oh, there's the mind again doing its thing. And we can take it way less seriously. And these things that arise in our field of awareness, they have way less power over us, right? They're no longer like dictating our reactivity. We no longer are like we've been saying, like compelled to act, compelled to move, like in a habitual way, the same way we've been doing like our whole lives, right? Instead, we can, respond in a new way, right? And at first, responding in a new way might mean not responding at all, you know? Today's practice was just sitting and breathing, and we can carry this sort of do nothing practice a little bit into the real world to see what that's like, in that moment where I feel compelled to speak. What would it be like to just keep my mouth shut? You know, is what I had to say like necessary? Was it urgent? Was it kind? And what would it be like if I didn't say it? In that moment where I feel compelled to scratch an itch, and I can say scratch an itch metaphorically also, right? What would it be like if I didn't? If I just waited, paused, stopped for a second, you know, what might happen? What in any moment where I typically would react out of habits, where I would feel compelled to just act and do something, what would it be like if I didn't? You know? And that's for you guys to answer and to find out, these are just things that we can explore in a seated meditation where we're practicing just this stillness of sitting and breathing, but then we can carry that practice of stillness off the cushion into the world and, just experiment a little bit with how that changes our world and how that ends up changing our relationships to others, our relationship to whatever's arising in our experience. And, you know, how does it change our actual circumstances? Uh, Antonio, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking about, like replacing one trigger with another. So if you're still on, maybe you can phrase that in a different way. Um, but yeah, this word trigger, all of us have minor and major triggers in so many ways. And like, on the one hand, we can just use that word of like anything that compels us to react in a habitual manner is a trigger for a certain habitual behavior. So the question becomes not how can I avoid my triggers? The question becomes, when I notice that I've been triggered, that something has cued a habitual reaction, uh, what do I do with that information, right? What do I do with that information? And today's practice in particular, sitting and breathing, um, the exercise perhaps would be when you notice that you've been triggered, just can you insert a little pause between trigger and reaction? Can you just insert a little tiny pause there? And, what happens when you do? Maybe we take that little pause and we take a few deep breaths and we decide to react habitually in the way that we always do. And, maybe that's the right thing to do. Maybe we do it and later on we apply a little more mindfulness to the consequences, to the outcomes, and we realize, there I did it again. I made a mistake, right? um, but if we practice at least that pause, the next time that trigger arises, maybe we can extend the pause a little bit further. And then maybe we have a better chance at choosing to respond to the trigger in a little bit of a different way, you know? Um, and we can be talking about like just major triggers, and we can be talking about like really minor things. But how wonderful to feel agency over how it is that we uh, move in the world and move through the world, um, thanks to a mindfulness practice that gives us the opportunity to go, wait, like Jacob just said, stop, wait. Is this really how I want to act in this moment? And noticing just the energy of that urge or that compulsion to act, to move, to do is a really good place to start. And this very simple practice of just sitting and breathing can help us become a lot more mindful of that urge to move or addiction to movement, right? What happens when we just say, okay, the intention for this meditation is to keep the body still and do nothing other than breathe? Just breathe, right? So part of what we're doing is like intentionally inviting distraction to arise in a way, thank God because for distraction, because when we try to do these meditations and then we see the movement of the mind and the urge to move and do and act and and the impossibility, the challenge that we have with stillness, what a great, amazing teaching, right? Like typically this is the water that we swim in and we don't even notice it at all. So how wonderful if we're struggling, so to speak, in our meditation, or if we find our meditation challenging. One way to look at that is how wonderful, because wow, now I really am noticing, observing, being introduced to the nonstop movement of the mind, and um once I'm aware of something, I have the opportunity to work on it, right? Once I illuminate my addiction to movement, what be that physical or the movement up here, I have all of a sudden this opportunity to go, wow, that's something I can work with. Is this benefiting me? Um, or would it be of benefit to me to practice a little more stillness, a little more pause, to slow things down a little bit, um, so that I don't just constantly react to the world around me out of habit, right? But with a little more mindfulness, a little more purpose, a little more intention. Yeah. So Beth says, yeah, it gives us control and peace in our actions. Yeah. Yeah. This is peace of mind, says Antonio. It gives us control over the perceptions that aren't important for us. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's possible, yeah, to perceive something and then go, whoa, that was weird, or maybe I could look at that in a different way, or wow, I'm looking at that from this angle and it's really not benefiting me. What about another one, right? Versus just reacting habitually, because you know due to these deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained habitual pathways that compel us to judge, to act, to move, to do, um, in a certain way, right? So, repeating again, today's practice, it was just, can we just sit and breathe? Just sitting and breathing. It's so simple. Um, and yet it can be a really, really profound practice if we give it enough time, if we give it enough space, if we keep coming back to it again and again and again. Can we just sit and breathe? You know? And when we put effort into simply sitting and breathing, we get to know the mind a lot better. We get to know and observe the ways in which we are addicted to movement. We understand that it's challenging to simply sit and breathe, but it is of great benefit, because if we can learn to become a little less reactive, in our cushion, where we are relatively free from distractions and our to-do lists, right? Free from others and free from, all sorts of things that pull our attention. Well, if we can become a little less reactive in that space, then we can become a little less reactive, uh, in the off the cushion too, and when we drop reactivity and choose the mindful path instead, we tend to move in the world in a way that does a lot less harm to both ourselves and to others. So, thank you guys so much for joining in today on this simple yet challenging practice of just sitting and breathing. We are here every Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific time in the US. And, hope to see you again in this space. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions, and for really helping to draw out some of these important topics. And what a wonderful exploration. So this video will be saved. You can always go back and listen to the meditation again from the beginning. But if you would like to try this meditation on your own and try this meditation at home, it's really simple. Just sit and breathe, right? Just set up a nice posture where you can be comfortable yet tall, and just breathe. And first, you might observe. There might be a lot of observing of the sitting and breathing, but eventually, can we let go of even that and just connect to the experience of sitting and breathing? So have a wonderful day, all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And you can always find more guided meditations on mindfulnessexercises.com, whether it's audio or video or guided meditation scripts. So have a wonderful Monday, and please carry some of this mindfulness and your practice into the rest of your week.